Howard, I'm sure that you have looked at levy equalization, and I'm sure it's a topic in the associations that you are part of around the state, of people who do the same job that you do. What are their thoughts, and what are your thoughts about levy equalization?
First of all, I'll go back to the term that the senator used. Levy swap is probably the more common name for that particular issue. And honestly, as I would agree totally with the senator, it is very complex. And I've seen a number of different models, people's ideas and whatnot, and honestly, I can't decode them at this point. I mean, there are pieces that are missing. There's assumptions about how much state money will come in to offset some of the losses we might experience. I talked to some of my colleagues, and they pretty much said the same things. People who are a lot smarter than I am have said, you know, we're not making heads or tails out of this yet. So I'm hoping when we get a little more concrete, I can see what that would do, and particularly for Pasco in its situation. But I haven't got there yet, to be honest.
Yeah. Complication makes things very difficult to be transparent as well, I've noticed. What is Pasco's percentage of levy money to state funding? I'm just curious.
As a percentage of our total revenue for the general fund, it is approximately 12%.
12% is levy money?
It's levy money.
And then the rest is state money or grants or that type of thing?
Federal, state,
yes. Yeah. How does that 12% compare to other districts? I mean, Kennewick, Richland, those are easiest for us to think about.
Yeah, and I don't have the specific numbers for Kennewick and Richland, but I can tell you I've looked at things statewide, and statewide it's usually about 22% or so of their total budget of a theoretically average district is raised by the local levy.
So school districts have created the situation where they go out to their citizens to supplement what they get from the state or federal grants or that type of thing. And you're at a disadvantage because you really cannot get that blood out of a turnip, as it were.
What he was saying is taxes don't necessarily solve the issue of levy equalization, and would that be a correct assessment? You know, it sounds like you're kind of dealing with two different things now. A levy is, you know, you're asking for more money, but how do those two kind of mesh together?
Okay, so every student in the state of Washington gets X dollars. So you have that basic, and then you could have a equalization dollar amount as well, where one school district gets you know, an extra $3 per student versus the others. That I want to be on the committee.
It's gonna be an interesting situation, that's for sure.
Because yes, it does sound extremely complicated, but in the meantime, it has real consequences for us here right now in the Tri-Cities. We're going to take a break. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes here. We're going to continue talking about education funding because it's so important to what's happening in the Tri-Cities. We have learned quite a bit about whether or not there'll be a special session, what they're up against in terms of finding education money, and the whole issue of levy equalization. So we want to invite your phone calls. We'd like to hear what you think about this, 547-8726. One of the questions I think might be to any community is to what extent people are willing to pay more statewide for supportive education. We also, I want to tell you, we also have Howard Roberts with us today, who is a financial director for the Pasco School District. Example, ask Howard how much is a brand new teacher paid that enters Pasco High School with, not high school, but Pasco School District with a basic teaching certificate, not a master's. What's that beginning pay?
Now, I can tell you what the state funding for that particular position is. It's including the 3% raise that recently went in, it's about $35,000.
$35,000, okay.
That we would get. Now, on top of that, it's up to each local district bargaining, that sort of thing. And I'm not for sure on our beginning first step of the scale, but we use, for example, in budgeting, a number of around $75,000. That would include salaries and benefits. Salary around $50,000. Again, that's going to be your mid-level teacher. It's not your beginnings.
So it's costing about $75,000 per teacher on an average.
Yeah, on an average. That's
on
what
an
we
average.
estimate.
Okay.
Correct.
How do you average differently, or do you, from Kennewick and Richland? Do you know?
Yeah, there's a part of the state formula that allocates the funding that takes a look at the mix of your experience and education. Each teacher, so they aggregate all that data and they come up with what's a mix factor. If you have a higher mix factor indicating you have more teachers with more experience in education, you will receive a little more funding. That's the way it works. So on average, our mix factor in Pasco is lower, and that's really an indication of the growing population in Pasco, and the fact that we do have a lot of new teachers starting out.
Yeah.
Things, so.
Well, new teachers are not going to get rich right away. No teacher is going to get rich, that's for certain. And everything is also about supply and demand. And right now, unfortunately, we have fewer people who are thinking that they want to get into the education business in the first place. Wow, we have learned a lot today. We're going to take our final break right now.